personally find capitalism a real problem.
Make their living and
So part of consensus process is also not interrupting, and I know it's anarchist organizing is difficult for some members of the media to comprehend, but we have this trunk right next to him about consensus process, so we'd appreciate not interrupting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I lost
You're talking about capitalism being
yes,
a problem.
I find capitalism to be a problem myself. Okay, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
I think you were addressing whether property damage counted as violence. Because you
Okay,
say you're
okay,
non-violent, but
okay.
somebody smashes a window in front of you, you have a problem with
but she
that.
wasn't there.
I wasn't there. I didn't see it. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I will say, okay, so here, let me give you two examples. Smashing windows on the one hand, pouring blood on draft files on another hand. Now, both of those are property destruction. Pouring blood on draft files probably causes far more dollar damage than does breaking windows. Now, why is one condemned and the other not? It's not a matter of money. And it could be a matter of intent, but that, I think, really has to be judged on a case-by-case basis. I don't know the intent behind the Macy's windows as stated.
And it's interesting that after hearing everything that's been said, the questions are about violence on the protesters' side, when really the hurt that was done in the streets, I mean, did any of the protesters shoot rubber bullets at the Did any of the protesters fire concussion grenades at human beings to explode right next to them? I mean, I think that the questions here are way off, and people aren't looking in the right place. That's all.
So we're just going to do two more questions, and okay, we're going to do one more question, and then we're going to hear from the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign.
Have you determined the identity of the informants within the group, and can you talk about what role they played over the past year and a half?
Well, as far as we know, we suspect there are 4 actual informants, and we definitely have suspicions, and confirmations to a certain degree. But as a lawyer, I don't feel very qualified to speak fully on that. But it has definitely affected a lot of how we as a group have come back together and how we as a group have stood closer. And it also speaks to the tactics that are being used within a movement that has been described so well by a lot of the people up here, consensus-based and in solidarity. That again, you want to talk about violence, the violence of entrapment is something that I see as really going on here.
Well, let me ask before you move, do you think that some of these informants actually suggested things, actually pushed the process forward?
It was interesting. I listened to the St. Paul Police and the Mayor's Office first press conference where they identified the RNC Welcoming Committee as having 35 members, and I said, I wish. I mean, we're talking about a group where people came in and out at different times, and where often there were 8 people at any meeting. Like, I think that the informants and these paid informants and these people who came to, like, with the specific intent to gather a specific kind of information that they were getting paid to gather, and part of that includes befriending people, included working with the group and moving the group's work forward. I mean, I don't. They played, and one of them in particular played a significant role in that. I personally think that that is the work of sick people and a very sick tactic that's used against organizers of protests.
Have you had contact with those individuals? I mean, have you confronted them on this topic?
She has
That was,
I wanted to ask,
about this.
Is it
well,
about informants?
actually, I wanted to ask about, you guys say that you provide logistical support. You haven't actually been marching on the streets as a group. And I was wondering, as logistical support, do you take any responsibility for violence that originated on the side of protesters or demonstrators who describe, especially those who describe themselves as anarchists? Or do you take any responsibility on your side for creating an atmosphere where people did get hurt?
We've talked a lot about violence, we've talked a lot about those questions, and I really feel like the Poor People's March folks who are here, who found a different way to get here since Smith Street has been closed, we'd like to give them some time.